guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Gems and I'm back with another video. Today I'll be sharing with you guys the resources that I used during my first 2 years of med school. So if you are interested in that, keep on watching. Now before I continue, I do want to say to those who are just entering med school, if you can, try to get an iPad or just some tablet that you can use to store your PDF versions of books, or like even just download the PDF version on your laptop if you can't get a tablet or an iPad, because it just makes things so much easier instead of having to carry about a whole bunch of books, because eventually, one, it will become very pricey, and two, you're gonna have like a whole stack. So try to get the PDF versions. A lot of the time the PDF versions are way cheaper than the physical copies, so try to get the PDF version, guys. I promise you it will make things so much easier. The first resource I want to mention is Amboss. This resource I use for pretty much every single thing. It has like literally the entire med school curriculum. Every single thing you need to know in med school and beyond is on Amboss. It has everything from anatomy, physiology, pathology, microbiology, literally everything. It also has lots and lots of questions that you can use to quiz yourself, and that way you can prepare for your end of term exams, step 1, step 2, step 3, even if there was a step 4, I'm sure they would have it. So yeah, definitely check out Amboss. This is not sponsored, by the way, but I just really love Amboss, so that's why I'm telling you guys about it. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to be telling you guys about the resources I use for anatomy, embryology, physiology, pathology, microbiology, and pharmacology. So starting with anatomy, I used the most resources for anatomy, and that's just because like anatomy is just something you have to somehow find a way to drill it into your head, and I just ended up using all of these different resources. And yeah, so the first thing that I would use when tackling anatomy is Kenhub. I would go on YouTube and just type in whatever structure I was looking for, and then type, like for example, the larynx, and then type Kenhub after it and watch whatever video they had on that. And the good thing about Kenhub is that they're usually really short videos, like probably 2 to 3 minutes long, and you would get a really good idea of what structure you are looking at, pretty much everything about that structure within those 2 minutes, and that would really help to familiarize myself with the structure. After I'm finished watching that Kenhub video, I would then move on to the textbook, and for me it was one of 2 textbooks. It was either the one that the majority of students in my class use, which was Last Anatomy, and I used this one mostly because my school goes really in depth into anatomy, and I just find this book to go really in depth into anatomy. And then the second book I used was the Board Review Series Gross Anatomy textbook. This to me was a bit easier to understand. It doesn't go as in depth as the previous book, but it just breaks things down a bit simpler. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys can see, but it even has like tables that you can use, and I really love tables. So this just made things a bit easier for me. And when I was reading the textbooks, I would then also have my Netter's Atlas of Anatomy open to whatever structure I was reading about, and then I would just try to identify the structures on the picture. After I was done studying or reading about said structure and looking at the pictures in the atlas, I would then move on to the Netter's flashcards. These things are lifesavers, honestly. Like, they're really good. So if you can, try to get the Netter's Anatomy flashcards, because they will make anatomy so much easier. So just quickly, I'll show you guys what the flashcard looks like. So one of the first things you learn about in anatomy is the skull, and here's a picture of the skull, and on the side there are labels that you have to try to figure out, and then here on the back are the answers and just a few comments of some extra things you just might need to know. And then seeing that we were online and not able to go to the anatomy lab, I downloaded a simulation of an anatomy lab called Visible Body Atlas, and on that you can pretty much see the human body in 3D form, or you can even use AR to move the body around in your own room. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, can like individualize the structure and like learn a whole lot of information on that structure. They even have quizzes, so you can quiz yourself on the structures as well. Like, it's just really good, a really good way to study anatomy if you are doing classes online and not able to go to the anatomy lab. And then finally, the very last thing I did for anatomy, when exams were coming around, or if I just really wanted a quick, well, not really quick because these videos were a bit long, but if I just really wanted to skip all of the reading, flashcards, anatomy simulation, I would just go for a video by the Noted Anatomist on YouTube and type in whatever structure I wanted to learn about and watch that video. He does really good videos. He explains really well, and honestly I think he really helps me to get by with anatomy. So shout out to the Noted Anatomist for doing awesome videos on YouTube for anatomy. So now moving on to embryology, what most if not all of my classmates used for embryology was the Langman's Embryology. This book is really good. It goes in depth, and so in depth that it probably has things we don't even need to know as med students, but I guess it's good to know them. But yeah, it's a really good book. It explains really well, and the pictures are really good. They're in color. Next, I'm going to talk about embryology, and what I use for embryology is the Board Review Series Physiology textbook. This thing is small, it looks small, but trust me, it has all the information on every single thing you need to know for physiology. It's a really good book. It explains really well, just like the gross anatomy part to it. But yeah, this book is really good. It breaks down everything really well. Trust me, you're gonna understand everything in physiology if you read this book. Also, I am now so sorry for the background noise. Someone is now cutting the grass and I can't really help that. So yeah, I hope you guys can hear me well and that the background noise doesn't make the video a bit, you know, terrible. Okay, so moving on to pathology. What I use for pathology is Pathoma. I still use it. Pathoma is just everything. Pathoma is a video lecture series by Dr. Hussein, who explains really well, by the way. And so what I would do is that I would have the PDF version of the book on my iPad, and I would watch the videos, and as I watched the videos I would make my own notes from what he was saying in the book. So some things like he would explain really well and I didn't want to forget that explanation, so I would just make a quick note of it in the same Pathoma textbook. On to microbiology and pharmacology. I am putting these two together because I used, I guess, what you could call the same resource, and that is Sketchy. Sketchy Micro and Sketchy Pharm are just awesome. I didn't get to use Sketchy Micro when I did microbiology, but as I'm going back to study it for step 1, I have been loving Sketchy Micro. I now know more things than I did just by reading lectures. Sketchy Pharm too, like I used it from like, I would say 2nd year, and Sketchy Pharm and Micro are just awesome. Sketchy is like just a bunch of sketches that they do on each topic, and they put different cues within each video so that it would be very easy to remember. I also want to mention the first aid book. It looks like this. This is the 2015 version, however I used the 2020 version, and honestly this book just has pretty much everything, but like in a review form, so I wouldn't advise like straight up studying from this book unless there are some things in here that you just can't find in like normal, like all the other resources. But yeah, this book is pretty much a review book for step 1, but I mean, even if you're not using it for step 1, I think it's just a really good book to have. But if you are using it for step 1, I would say like don't even listen to those people who tell you to just start using it when you're starting to study for step 2, like in 2nd year or 3rd year. Start from like the first day of med school if you can, because what you can do is, if you are like having lectures, on a specific topic, find that topic in this book and just familiarize yourself with the content that would be tested on for the USMLE, because I mean it makes things so much easier so that when you get to, or when you get closer to your exam, you're not seeing the information in this book for the very first time. And finally, the last resource that I use for my first years of med school is Anki. It's pretty much an online flashcard app that you can use to make flashcards and quiz yourself on pretty much all the information that are in these resources that I just told you about, because med school is just a lot and you're going to need spatial repetition to just keep these things into your brain. That concludes everything I used during my first 2 years of med school, you know, aside from the lectures. And I hope you guys found this very helpful. As always, everything will be listed in the description box below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!